Hey Westsiders, Pastor Ray here for video number 2 as we think about how to share our faith. One of the interesting things that I've come across over the years has been this idea that not only has God made us unique with our shape that we talked about last week or our spiritual pathways, but he has also designed us to share the gospel with who we are and our natural bent. Not everyone's going to share the gospel. Not everyone's going to witness. Not everyone's going to be able to share the hope that lies within them the same way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach another test. For those of you who like tests, you'll enjoy this. But find out which way you kind of lean when you share the gospel. And so very quickly, I want to talk about these 6 different areas. And then you can read about them also. The first area is called the confrontational area. And a lot of people think this is the only way to share the gospel, that you need to go up to people and grab them by the collar or the shoulder and just say, hey, are you saved? Are you going to heaven? And if not, you know where you're going to hell. And while some people think that this is the great and they're bent this way, most of us aren't confrontational like that. Peter in Acts chapter 2 is an example of this, where when the crowd said, what must we do to be saved? He responded with a message: repent and be baptized. And see, the thing about if you are have this bent as far as witnessing goes, you're confident, you're assertive, you're direct. But what you have to be careful of is you need to make sure that you use tact. You want to make sure that not only is truth coming from you, but also love. And I know sometimes that can be hard for us, maybe who are more confrontational. A second one might be intellectual. Intellectual is a person who's logical and rational and loves to deal with questions. He might ask, what do you think about this? And Acts chapter 17 shows Paul reasoning with those in Berea and trying to use their culture and help them understand the gospel. Now, what's great about this is that you're inquisitive, and you may run into some people that are also inquisitive, that are analytical, that are logical, and you can kind of present the gospel in that fashion. And yet, don't substitute the gospel for just giving answers. We need to tell and share the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. The third one is testimonial. And this is most familiar to us, where we ask, hey, how did you come to Jesus? And to share your personal testimony. And a great example of this is the man who was born blind in John chapter 9. He kept getting asked and kept getting asked and kept getting asked. And finally, he just says, all I know is this: I was blind, but now I see. And what's great is we all have a personal testimony like that. We all have a personal experience where we stopped doing something and started following Jesus. And people can't argue with that. They might want to argue with the validity of the Bible. They might want to argue with, is there a God out there? But they can't argue with your changed life. And so when you are testimonial, you might be a clear communicator. You're a good storyteller. You're a good listener. But you need to beware of sharing so many stories that you're not relating to the other person. You're sharing about your life and your stories, but it has no relevance for them. So you need to make sure that you can connect with them to make sure that they understand where you're coming from. Another one is interpersonal or relational. And this style is easiest for us. When you think of Matthew in Luke chapter 5, he was a tax collector. He was hated by everyone. But he decided, in order for people and his friends to meet Jesus, he threw a big party and had all his friends over, and then Jesus was able to show who he was and talk to them about his future kingdom. This type of person uses relationships to bring others to Jesus. People like this usually have a warm personality. They're conversational, they're friendship oriented. But what you have to be careful about is if you are so valuing that friendship that you don't share the truth. And so sometimes the gospel can be challenging for people who are relational because they don't want to lose that friend. They don't want to cause friction in the relationship. So we got to make sure that if you're that way, that you can balance that value for friendship with the truth. Number 4 is invitational. Many feel comfortable just inviting people. Think of the example of John chapter 4 with the woman at the well. When she was done with Jesus and she ran into town, what did she do? She told the town, come and see who Jesus is. And so people love to be invited to things. And some people are very good at that, are able to weave in invitation to either a church event or a small group or whatever it is. And people who are invitational are usually hospitable, relational, they can be persuasive. But we have to make sure that we don't let others do the talking for you. You need to make sure that you have an answer for the hope that lies within you. And like we talked about on the first video, that you want to be able to have that succinctly ready. You know, like Jesus died on the cross, rose from the dead the third day, and he has forgiven my sins. Lastly, if you didn't fit into one of the 5 previous areas, maybe you fit into serving. There was a person in the Bible named Dorcas who loved to serve, and her acts of kindness melted the hearts of those around her and opened doors for her to share her faith. And so some people find not only are they gifted in serving, but they can witness while they're serving. They're other-centered, they're patient, they're humble. But again, just like with some of the other ones, words are no substitution for actions. And so while you can still serve, you need to make sure that you verbally present the gospel to others. Those are 6 reasons why, or how I should say, that you can witness, and probably 1 or 2 of them you probably lean more towards than the other ones. So I encourage you, if you have time, to take the little test and compute where you figure out where you fit in and see if it's true. Look forward to seeing you on Friday, and hope everyone's having a great week.